A man sits on a rooftop in Judea, staring up at a sky that feels almost close enough to touch. He is not a king yet, and the answer the New Testament provides changes how you read every single page of the Old Testament. The empty tomb secures the crown, but this ancient text does not just speak to first-century martyrs facing Roman steel, because the gap between what we are promised and what we experience is haunting another group of people today. You wake up before the sun, you silence the alarm, you step onto the cold floor, you look in the mirror, you do not see a ruler of the cosmos. You see tired eyes, you see graying hair, you see the heavy, relentless toll of simply trying to survive another week. The bills pile up on the kitchen counter. A medical diagnosis arrives in a sterile white envelope. A relationship fractures over a quiet, tense dinner. The anxiety tightens your jaw. The exhaustion settles deep in your bones. You are Enosh. You are the fragile dust. You read the majestic promises of Psalm 8. You read about glory. You read about honor. You read about every wild thing being placed securely under your feet. And then you look at your actual life. Creation does not bow to you. The cancer cells do not bow to you. The climbing interest rates do not bow to you. The creeping depression does not bow to you. The addiction that wakes you up in a cold sweat at 3 a.m. does not bow to you. To find the answer, you have to start with the specific word David chose for man, and the strange, haunting reason he didn't choose any of the others. You are not holding the scepter. You are being crushed by the kingdom you are supposed to rule. The ache in your chest is not a lack of gratitude. It is the phantom weight of a missing crown. The frustration you feel is not a lack of faith. It is the echo of your original design colliding with your current reality. Your body remembers a world without thorns. Your soul remembers a communion without distance. You feel the profound wrongness of decay, because you were never designed to experience it. You were designed for pakad. You were designed for the royal visitation. You were meant to oversee the earth, to cultivate the wild beauty of God's creation. You were built for a garden. You are living in a graveyard. We try to bridge the agonizing gap ourselves. We chase promotions. We buy bigger houses. We build tiny little empires out of drywall and glass. We try to force our immediate world into subjection. We try to manufacture the glory we lost in the dirt. But the drywall cracks. The glass shatters. The soil always reclaims what belongs to it. You pull your car into the driveway. You turn off the engine. You sit in the heavy silence for 10 minutes. Psalm chapter 8, verse 4. David is staring up at a sky that makes him feel infinitesimally small. And he asks the question, because you do not have the physical energy to walk through your own front door. You feel the weight of expectations pressing down on your lungs. You feel the slow, steady decay of time. This is not the dominion David sang about on the roof. This is a daily, exhausting surrender. But the writer of Hebrews does not tell you to fight the graveyard. He does not tell you to try harder to manifest your lost authority. He points your eyes away from your own fracturing life and points them toward the one who walked directly into the cemetery. It is Friday afternoon in Jerusalem. The sky turns black at midday. The true human hangs by iron spikes outside the city walls. He is not resisting the curse. He is absorbing it. Look closely at the scene on the hill. The Roman soldiers mock his kingship. They press a crown into his scalp. But it is not made of gold or silver. It is woven from the sharp, rigid thorns of the cursed earth. The very soil that was supposed to submit to humanity is now drawing blood from the forehead of its creator. The dominion looks entirely broken. David sang on the rooftop that all things were placed securely under human feet. The sheep, the oxen, the birds of the air, and the beasts of the field. But on the cross, the exact opposite is happening, that will echo through the rest of the biblical text. What is man that you are mindful of him? The Son of Man that you care for him? The beasts are not under his feet. The Roman executioners surround him like wild dogs. The religious leaders circle him like predatory bulls. The earth is not offering him its bounty. It is offering him a sponge soaked in sour wine. The sky is not declaring his glory. It is shutting down its light in the middle of the afternoon. The dust is not being molded into life. It is waiting with an open mouth to swallow his corpse. This is not a tragic defeat. It is the coronation of the true Adam. The first Adam was formed from the dust, and he brought a curse to the garden. The true Adam falls into the dust, and he pulls a garden out of the curse. He hangs there, gasping for the fragile breath of Enosh. The splintered wood is rough against his torn back. The smell of copper and sweat hangs heavy in the sudden darkness. He is feeling the full, crushing weight of the gap between David's poem and human reality. He is taking the sickness, the frailty, and the incurable disease of the human heart, and he is pulling it all into his own chest. At present, we do not see everything in subjection to him. The writer of Hebrews admitted. In English, the sentence sounds like a simple poetic repetition. Man and Son of Man. Two ways of saying the exact same thing. But look at what we do see. We see Jesus. We see the God who became the mud creature. We see the King who let the kingdom crush him. We see the Creator who allowed his own creation to tear him apart. He breathes his last. He is wrapped in linen. He is laid on a cold stone slab inside a borrowed cave. The heavy rock is rolled across the entrance, scraping against the earth, sealing him in the dark. The dust finally reclaims the true human, but the dirt cannot hold the one who breathed it into existence. Sunday morning breaks. The stone rolls back. The lungs expand. The heart beats. He walks out of the tomb, not just as God, but as the glorified Enosh. He walks out as the firstborn of a brand new humanity, a humanity where the crown is permanently restored. The dominion is finally secured. The universe is placed under the feet of a human being who has conquered the grave. And that changes everything about what happens to you when your own life feels like it is shattering. But here is the part I keep coming back to. When the writer of Hebrews looked at his shattered, exhausted congregation, but in the original Hebrew, David is building a specific, devastating picture of humanity. And he is doing it with his vocabulary. He did not offer them a roadmap back to earthly power. He did not give them a 5-step strategy to reclaim their dominion over the Roman Empire. He gave them a theology of the dirt. We spend so much of our frantic energy trying to escape the reality that we are Enosh. We build fortresses of wealth. We curate flawless digital lives. We buy serums and supplements, rubbing chemicals into our skin to stave off the decay. We want the crown of Psalm 8, but we want it without the vulnerability of the dust. We want to be the untouchable rulers of our tiny, manufactured kingdoms. But God has never been interested in your manufactured strength. If you are in a season where the crushing feels louder than the promise, you are living in the agonizing space. Between verses 8 and 9 of Hebrews chapter 2, you wake up with a dull, persistent ache in your lower back. You sit under the harsh fluorescent lights of a hospital waiting room, listening to the hum of the vending machine, waiting for a name to be called. You stare at a bank account screen that glows cold in a dark room. You feel the profound, inescapable humiliation of being frail. The enemy wants you to look at that frailty and conclude that you have been abandoned. He wants you to believe that because you do not hold the scepter, you have lost the love of the king. The Hebrew language has several words for man. If David wanted to highlight human capability, he could have used Ish, which means a man of strength. Your weakness is not a disqualification from the kingdom. It is the exact prerequisite for his presence. Because we do not yet see everything in subjection, but we see Jesus. He did not stand on the balcony of the cosmos, shouting instructions at drowning people. He dove into the freezing water. He let the lungs of his human body burn for lack of oxygen. He felt the cold sweat of genuine panic in the olive grove. He allowed the rough, splintered iron to tear through his wrists. He was crowned with glory and honor because he suffered the death of the Enosh. When your life shatters, you are not falling out of the grip of God. You are falling into the exact path the true human has already walked. The gap between your calling and your reality is the space where grace actually operates. You do not have to pretend to be strong anymore. You do not have to hold the universe together. You are allowed to be dust. Because the dust is precisely what God has promised to visit. He promised to Pakad to oversee, to commission, to step into the mess and take command. And when you step back and look at the entirety of the biblical narrative, you realize that this descent into the dark to retrieve what was lost is not an isolated anomaly. A shepherd stared up at the terrifying scale of the stars and realized the Creator was obsessed with the dirt. A husband, a champion. He could have used Adam, the generic term for humanity, but he doesn't use either of those for the first half of his question. The mud was shaped into a breathing creature and handed the scepter to rule the wild earth. The crown was dropped in the graveyard of human history, and the creation began to crush the rulers it was supposed to serve. The psalmist sang about a dominion we could no longer see, and the early church waited in the shadows of a violent empire. The God of the cosmos stepped down into the frail, breaking dust, and became the very Enosh he had spoken into existence. He allowed the thorns of the cursed ground to pierce his own scalp and absorb the humiliation of a ruined kingdom. A stone was rolled away from a borrowed cave, and a brand new humanity walked out wearing an unbreakable crown. One poem, one rescue, one true human. But maybe the part that stays with me most is the vocabulary of the lowering, the Greek word elatu. We spend our entire lives trying to climb out of the dirt, trying to hide our decay, trying to prove we are not fragile. And Jesus does the exact opposite. He willingly descends beneath the angels, steps into the heavy mud that stains the hands, and lets the splintered beam of wood tear his back. His descent was not a tragic accident. The word translated man here is the Hebrew Enosh. It is a word that carries the heavy, inescapable weight of decay. It was the only way to retrieve what we had lost. If you are in a season where you feel the crushing weight of your own frailty, where the medical diagnosis or the quiet panic at 3 a.m. makes you feel entirely abandoned, stop trying to manufacture your own glory. The gap between what you were designed for and what you are currently surviving is not empty space. It is the exact place where Jesus is standing. He is not disappointed by your weakness. He is intimately familiar with it. And may the God who has never once been afraid of the dirt walk with you through the heavy soil of your own suffering and carry you securely until the day the crown is finally restored. Enosh comes from a root word, enash, which means to be frail, weak, incurable, or desperately sick. He is a shepherd, a musician, a boy who has spent more time with stars and wool than with thrones and gold. It is the same root the prophet Jeremiah uses centuries later when he writes that the human heart is desperately sick. Enosh is humanity viewed not in its glory, but in its absolute, heartbreaking fragility. It is the dust that the wind scatters across the desert floor. It is the life that withers like dry grass under a blistering sun. Then, in the second half of the verse, David creates a parallel, and the Son of Man, that you care for him. The phrase he uses here is Ben Adam, son of Adam, son of the red dirt. The word Adam traces directly back to Adamah, the soil, the clay, the heavy mud that stains the hands and crumbles in the fingers when it dries. David is looking at the night sky, a canopy of untouchable fire and light, and comparing it to beings made of wet dirt and fragile breath. That vocabulary changes everything. When David asks his question, he is not marveling at human achievement or intellectual capacity. He is staggered by the disproportionate nature of divine attention. Psalm 8 is not a celebration of human strength. It is a shock at divine obsession. Why would the God who spun galaxies into the freezing blackness of space spend even a fraction of a second thinking about Enosh? Creatures who bleed, who break, who eventually return to the very soil they were pulled from. But the poetry does not stop at mere observation. He picks up a pen. He is not writing a hymn for a temple choir. He is tracing the shape of a massive, terrifying question. Because the text says God does not just look at this fragile, dying dust. He reaches down and does something to it. And the specific Hebrew word David uses to describe that action sets up a cosmic collision that will take 1,000 years to resolve. David sits in the chill of the Judean night. The wind sweeps across the flat roof. The stone is cold beneath him. He looks up at the moon. He looks down at his hands. He feels the sharp desert air in his lungs. He smells the smoke of 100 small fires burning below in the valley. He thinks about the dirt. He thinks about the breath. And he writes the next line, that you care for him. The English word is gentle. It sounds like a nurse checking on a patient. It sounds like a mother watching a sleeping child. But the Hebrew word is pakad. It is a military word. It is a royal word. It means to visit, to oversee, to appoint, to muster an army. When God visits the dust, he does not just comfort it, he commissions it. David writes, the unthinkable. God takes Enosh the fragile, dying dirt, and crowns him with glory and honor. He gives him dominion. The heavens are the work of God's fingers. The moon and the stars are the decorations he placed there. He hands over the keys to the entire physical world. The wild ox in the field, the lion in the thicket, the eagle hunting on the wind, the dark shapes thrashing in the deep ocean. All of it, David says, is placed securely under the feet of the mud creature. The universe is a vast, untamed kingdom, and God has handed the scepter to the weakest thing breathing inside of it. Creation is massive. Humanity is microscopic. The stars are permanent. Humanity is temporary. The universe is overwhelming. Humanity is overwhelmed, but the crown does not go to the stars. It goes to the dust. This is the original design of Genesis chapter 1. God builds a cosmic temple out of time and space. He shapes the mountains. He fills the oceans. He ignites the burning suns. And then he scoops up a handful of wet soil, breathes his own life into it, and seats it on the throne of creation. The delegation of authority is total. The rule is absolute. It is not a symbolic gesture. It is a transfer of jurisdiction. David writes this psalm. The priests sing it in the temple courtyard. The people chant it during the harvest festivals. For 1,000 years, the children of Israel sing about their glorious crown. They sing about their dominion. They sing about everything being placed under their feet. And in the middle of that infinite, spinning vastness, one specific creature stands looking up. The question is not about the scale of the universe. They sing it while they are dragged away in chains to Babylon. They sing it while their temple is burned to the ground. They sing it while Roman boots march through their streets and Roman crosses go up on their hills. They chant about having dominion over the works of God's hands, while they are bleeding out in the dirt they were made from. And that creates a problem, a massive, undeniable, humiliating problem. Because if you walk down from the roof, if you look away from the stars, and if you step into the actual, brutal streets of human history, the song sounds like a lie. Fast forward to the 1st century, where an unnamed author sits down to address a community of exhausted Christians. In the 2nd chapter of the letter to the Hebrews, this author quotes David's ancient poem word for word. He writes out the majestic promises of Psalm 8. He details the crowning. He outlines the dominion. He reminds his readers that God placed every single thing in subjection under the feet of humanity. And then, he writes one of the most painfully honest sentences in the entire New Testament. It is about the scale of the love. Most people read Psalm 8 as a poem about how big God is, or perhaps how magnificent creation remains. At present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him. It is a staggering admission. The writer looks at the world, a world where viruses ravage the bloodstream, where iron rusts in the damp air, where violent storms drown coastal cities, and where the heavy soil continues to swallow human graves. And he admits the obvious. The poem does not match our current reality. Humanity was designed to govern the earth, but the earth is actively killing humanity. We are not holding the scepter. We are being bruised and broken by the very creation we were supposed to rule. So the writer of Hebrews does not leave his audience to despair. He offers a solution, but it is not the solution anyone expects. He does not tell his readers to try harder. He does not instruct them to rise up. conquer their circumstances and reclaim their lost authority through sheer willpower. Instead, he shifts the target of the entire psalm. At present, we do not yet see everything in subjection to him, but we see him who for a little while was made lower than the angels, namely Jesus, crowned with glory and honor because of the suffering of death. They think it is a praise song about the beauty of the night. But if you look closer at the Hebrew root behind the word for man, the writer takes a 1,000-year-old poem about the entirety of the human race, and he narrows the camera lens until it focuses on one single, specific Jewish man. He declares that the only place the promise of Psalm 8 is currently intact is in the person of Jesus of Nazareth. Jesus is the true Enosh. Jesus is the ultimate Ben Adam. Hebrews chapter 2 is not a spiritual metaphor. It is a historical rescue mission. When humanity dropped the crown in the dirt, God did not abandon the project. And he did not hand the authority over to the angels. He stepped into the dirt himself to pick it up. He became the frail, breathing dust that David marveled at on the rooftop. Submitting himself to the very elements he spoke into existence. But to understand exactly what it cost him to step down into that mud, you have to look at the specific Greek word the early church was reading when they heard the phrase, made lower. And you have to look at the blood on the ground right outside their doors. The letter circulates in a room that smells of stale olive oil and fear. It is the late 1st century. The Roman arena is not a metaphor. The lions are real. The heavy iron chains dragging across cold stone floors are real. A group of exhausted believers. At the jarring way, the writer of Hebrews dismantled this poem. Centuries later, you start to see something the traditional reading completely misses, hiding in the shadows of the empire. Unroll the rough parchment of Hebrews and read the words tracing back to David's rooftop. But we see him who for a little while was made lower than the angels. The writer of Hebrews is using the Septuagint, the Greek translation of the Old Testament. And the specific Greek verb sitting on the page for made lower is elatu. It means to decrease in status, to lessen in rank, to be made inferior in dignity. The root of the word carries the image of being stripped of an expected honor. It is the demotion of a general to a foot soldier. It is a sovereign stepping off, a throne to become a servant. The early church reads this word while they are being hunted, and the impact is visceral. The God who spun the galaxies did not just look down at the frail Enosh in pity. He became Enosh, and he allowed the fragile, dying dirt to tear him apart. Picture the scene in Jerusalem just a few decades earlier. The Roman guards strip the clothing from his back. The leather whip cuts into his flesh, exposing the bone. Long, rigid thorns are pressed deep into his scalp. He drags a splintered beam of wood through the dust. Psalm 8 is not a lullaby. It is a confrontation. It is a document that asks whether humanity is actually worthy of the kingdom it was given. His blood mixing with the heavy soil of the earth, he spoke into existence. He hangs naked under a darkened sky, struggling for a single, shallow breath while his lungs fill with fluid. The lowering is absolute. He goes all the way down. He descends beneath the angels. He descends beneath the kings of the earth. He descends into the dirt of the tomb itself. The crucifixion is not a temporary setback. It is the ultimate expression of elatu. Jesus takes the humiliation of the human condition and wears it like a garment. He steps into the exact center of our fragility. He experiences the sickness, the decay, and the death that define the sons of Adam. He does not assert his divine privilege to escape the pain. He endures it, because you cannot rescue the dust without getting your hands dirty. The writer of Hebrews tells the persecuted church that their suffering is not proof of God's absence. It is the very path their king walked before them. Jesus reclaimed the lost crown of humanity. But he did not do it by bringing an army. He did it by plunging into the deepest pit of human weakness and taking the full force of the curse upon himself. The blood in the dirt pays the price.